I want to play these two clips for you from CNN, and then I want to weigh in. I want to hear what Buck thinks, too. How much is this polling? How much is this suddenly Jeff Zucker is out at CNN and maybe he was the king of the mask police? I don't even know. But I want you to listen to these two cuts. And it's important for you to recognize that Dr. Lena Wen, one of CNN's foremost experts, has been in favor of every possible masking tool. She's been in favor of vaccine mandates. She's been one of the most draconian of the COVID restrictionists. And all of a sudden, she has changed her entire tune. First, let's listen to her recognize that masking children has a risk-benefit analysis, and it no longer, in her opinion, suddenly is in favor of masking kids. Listen to this.
There actually is a harm that we should be discussing of children continuing to mask. That doesn't mean that masking doesn't have its place for children when there are very high rates of hospitalization. If we get a new variant in the future that children are particularly susceptible to, we may want to bring masks back. But we should also be intellectually honest and say that masking has had a cost, especially for the youngest learners, people with English as a second language, children with learning disabilities. There has been a cost to them. So the risk-benefit calculation has really changed.
No, it hasn't.
So, Buck, what happens?
I mean, look, Clay, we've known this all along. So I knew this was going to happen. There's this weird feeling you have of, on the one hand, thank God the madness will at least recede for a time. And I want everyone to be very clear. They're going to bring all this stuff back unless we ram home the truth. Okay, if we just allow them to walk away from this Lena Wen style and say, oh, we did all the right things, but now the science has changed a little bit. No, what happened is we went through the seasonal respiratory virus spike, the same thing we saw last year and the same thing we saw pre-COVID every period of time, cold viruses and flu and everything else. It's dropping way down now. I think cases nationwide in the States down, over 50% in the last 7 days? Something like that. We've seen a huge decline. It has nothing to do with the mitigation measures. It has nothing to do with the mass vaccination campaign that they put us all through. That didn't stop the spread. Everyone knows it. So now they walk around acting like they're the reasonable ones because it's now untenable. Now it's what are we even doing? What's going on? We're going to cater to the hysterics forever. By the way, they would if they thought they could politically get away with it, and politically it was a way for them to maintain power. What we are going through right now is the Democrat recognition. This is an election year. This is possibly from a legislative perspective, end of the Biden presidency, really, if you have Republicans taking the House and the Senate, or either one. And they know that people are tired of this. Anyone who's rational and reasonable understands they failed, that the apparatus failed, Fauciism, all of this, did nothing to stop the waves of COVID we've gone through. And that's why you have idiots like Governor Murphy of New Jersey who, when they're asked for data, don't say they have any data. They just say masks work, like there's some moron repeating what they've been told in a language they don't even understand. Masks work. What? It's absurd.
Let's play that too. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, he's asked for any data. Now, to be fair, although it feels like it's not fair at all, because these are the arguments. The data has been consistent forever. Suddenly, they now are changing their mind. And he was asked for any data to prove that school mask mandates work. Now, by the way, the state of New Jersey is lifting its mask restrictions coming March 7th for schools and child care settings. That's about a month from today, and here is what he had to say when he was asked if mask mandates actually work.
There's no question that masking in our schools since the beginning of the school year has been a very smart public health step. I think we've had just over 2,600 cases of students with COVID positive since the beginning of the school year. That's out of 1.4 million kids.
Yeah, but have you seen data that definitively proves that these mask mandates have worked? I mean, the numbers you just presented are impressive, but are they different from the numbers in states where they didn't have mask mandates?
I'm highly confident, and I'm sure our health officials could say it definitively. There's no question they've worked.
There's no question, Clay. There's no question. They work. Wait, but why do they work? They work. I mean, you have to. I mean, I know this. I think he's a former Goldman Sachs guy. He knows what he's saying is moronic. He knows that he has no. If they had the data, if they had the evidence, don't you think, Clay, they would be dancing on Florida's grave if they could right now. Florida has had masks optional for the entire school year. We have 6 months of data. Does anyone want to guess what happens when you look at Florida per capita COVID counts in schools without mask mandates versus versus California? Line them up side by side. It's basically the same thing. Didn't make it.
We had in my backyard a perfect example of that, Buck, because Davidson County, which is Nashville, mandated masks, and my county, which is Williamson, Franklin, Brentwood, for those who know the area of Nashville, did not. And the actual 6-month data of student infections with COVID was virtually the exact same. Almost no differences whatsoever in terms of what that looked like. Now, Dr. Lena Wynn, I want to go back to her again because I watched this interview clip on CNN last night, and it's rare my jaw drops. Buck, it was like you or I were suddenly a guest on CNN, and the shamelessness with which she pretends that the science has changed, but also that she hasn't been arguing the exact opposite of this up till a couple of weeks ago. She now says the responsibility on mask wearing should shift from the government to the individual. Who does that sound like? Listen to this.
There was and is a time and place for pandemic restrictions, but when they were put in, it was always with the understanding that they would be removed as soon as we can. And in this case, circumstances have changed. Case counts are declining. Also, the science has changed. We know that vaccines protect very well against Omicron, which is the dominant variant. Everyone 5 and older have widespread access to vaccines. And we also know about one-way masking, the idea that even if other people around you are not wearing masks, if you wear a high quality mask, that also protects you, the wearer, too. And so in this case, I'm not saying, I don't think anyone really is saying that no one should ever wear masks, but rather that the responsibility should shift from a government mandate imposed from the state or the local district of the school. Rather, it should shift to an individual responsibility by the family who can still decide that their child can wear a mask if needed.
No, by the way, I don't agree. I think everything she says there is basically wrong, just to be clear. I mean, I understand you're saying the government shouldn't be mandating this for people.
The big takeaway there is she suddenly is against mandates after she wanted everybody to be vaccinated. She wanted every kid vaccinated.
She wanted N95 masks for kids a month ago.
I know.
She's a lunatic, okay? This is what they do, though. They act like we have no access to Google. We have no access to the interwebs to find out what was said a while ago. And so much of what the one-way masking thing, a year and change ago, I forget exactly when, remember they abandoned the one-way masking thing. Remember when the big Danish study came out and it showed that masks didn't do anything to protect the wearer? And then all of a sudden they said, oh, well, it protects other people. They change every few months. They're so full of crap. Also, her thing about vaccines work well against Omicron?
No, they don't.
Has she been awake for the last 4 months?
I'm willing to forgive the fact that almost every bit of the data she cited to analyze her final result is wrong, because the final result is right? And so I mean, Buck, what do you think happened here? I mean, do you think Jeff Zucker being out at CNN has led to maybe he was the ultimate, COVID terror, fear porn purveyor? Is it the data on some of the polling?
It's bigger than CNN.
But it just to happen overnight effectively. Do you think that these all these Democratic governors, because I do, in Delaware and Connecticut and New Jersey, agreed to come out on the same day to try to distract attacks on them? Well, I think that's likely.
Yes, that's what happened here. The politics have changed. The science has not changed.
It's the same it always is.
That's been the same the whole time. The politics in this moment have changed because people realize now it is unavoidable. You cannot be even vaguely informed about the world around you and not understand the drawbacks of masking, not understand that the vaccines didn't work as advertised to stop the spread. See, I'll use the specificity here. She says they work. I know what she's going to say. Oh, it works against hospitalization and death. That was not the basis for mandates. It was not get the shot, it'll save your life. It was get the shot or else, because you'll kill somebody else if you don't get the shot. That was a lie. And they haven't come to grips with that lie yet. They won't actually say that out loud, but the data all proves it. Clay, it's a political liability now. They realize the mask as the sign of tribal allegiance to Democrats is just annoying now for everyone who's not completely crazy, so they have to let up a little bit. But I want to be very clear about this, too. She says, Dr. Lena Wen, many others already, we have to let up now so we have the credibility to reinstitute later. They are not done. And that's why anyone says, oh, Buck, let it go. Let's move on. Let's talk about Ukraine or whatever. No, they were wrong, and they want to do this again. And you and I know this. You've known this from the very beginning where this was heading.
No doubt. And also, they are going to try and argue that the reason why Omicron cases came down, you know this too, Buck. They're going to say, oh, all of our measures worked.
Of course.
And the cases, that's why the cases came down, because you guys started wearing your mask more assiduously because you were listening to public health authorities. But I got to think, I feel like they must have gotten some numbers inside of the White House, because every parent that I talk to, Buck, even people who are dyed-in-the-wool Democrats, on the school masking issue, they are over it in a big way. And I think what they're seeing is the overall data has moved rapidly against the idea of kids needing to wear masks, because people start to eventually recognize some of this data, and I think they are panicked over, because look, Stacey Abrams, for instance, Buck, they're terrified that they are going to get the landslide of their lives in November. And if they're really going to go to war with the idea being your kids have to wear masks, we're going to see a beatdown. I think we're going to see the beatdown in a major way regardless, but we might see one that we've never seen in the history of the country if they keep trying to drive this